5 real-world English situations. You must be ready, for most people who know English cannot use English. They can read articles, they can understand movies, they can answer grammar questions, but put them in a real situation. A stranger speaks to them, a question comes suddenly, a response is needed right now, and everything disappears. Their mind goes blank. Their confidence collapses. Their English stays trapped inside their head. This is not because they lack knowledge. It is because they were trained for classrooms, not for life. English is not a school subject. English is a survival tool. And when English is treated as theory instead of practice, it fails exactly when you need it most. Think about the moment English actually matters, not during exams, not during exercises, but when someone asks you a question unexpectedly. You need to ask for help. You need to explain something quickly. You need to respond without preparation. Real life does not wait for grammar. Real life does not slow down. Real life demands response, not perfection. This is where most learners struggle, not because they are bad at English, but because they trained the wrong muscle. They trained memory, they trained accuracy, they trained rules, but they did not train reaction. Real-world English is reactive. You don't get time to think. You don't get time to translate. You don't get time to sound perfect. You only get one choice: respond or freeze. And freezing becomes a habit when English has only been practiced in safe, controlled environments. Classroom English is predictable. Real-world English is chaotic. Classroom English asks, "What is the correct answer?" Real-world English asks, "Can you communicate right now?" This difference is everything. Most English learners secretly believe that once their grammar is good enough, real conversations will become easy. But the opposite is true. You don't become fluent, then enter real life. You enter real life to become fluent. Fluency is built in moments of uncertainty, in moments where you don't know the perfect word, in moments where your sentence is half finished, in moments where you choose to speak anyway. That is where real English lives. This is why many people who move to English-speaking countries suddenly improve faster than those who study for years, not because they are smarter, but because English becomes necessary. Necessity removes fear. When English is required to function, your brain stops protecting your ego and starts protecting your survival. It becomes practical. And practicality is the fastest teacher. But you don't need to move abroad to create this effect. You only need to practice English in real-world scenarios. Scenarios train the brain differently. When you imagine or rehearse real situations, your brain switches from study mode to action mode. It prepares you for response. This is why athletes don't just read rules, they practice situations. This is why drivers don't just learn traffic laws, they practice on roads. And this is why English learners must practice situations, not sentences. Sentences are static, situations are dynamic. In real life, no one says, "Please form a grammatically correct sentence." They say, "Excuse me, can you help me? What do you think? Sorry, I didn't understand. Can you repeat that?" Simple language, high pressure. Real world English is not advanced English. It is ready English, ready to respond, ready to ask, ready to continue. And confidence does not come from complexity. It comes from familiarity. When your brain has seen a situation before, even in imagination, it reacts calmly. Fear comes from unfamiliarity. That's why many learners panic in simple conversations but feel calm when speaking about memorized topics. Their brain knows one situation, it doesn't know the other. This series is designed to fix that. Instead of teaching you more rules, it will train you for 5 situations that appear again and again in real life. Situations where English actually matters. Situations that decide whether you feel confident or silent. Because if you can handle these 5 situations, you can handle most English conversations. You don't need thousands of words. You need usable words. You don't need perfect grammar. You need clear intent. You don't need native level fluency. You need functional confidence. Real world English focuses on starting conversations, continuing conversations, handling confusion, expressing thoughts, recovering from mistakes. These are the skills that make English usable. And once English becomes usable, confidence follows naturally. This is why many learners feel fluent one day and terrible the next. It depends on the situation. Fluency is not a permanent state. It is situational. You may speak confidently at work but freeze socially, or speak well with friends but struggle with strangers. That doesn't mean your English is weak. It means your situational training is incomplete. This series fills those gaps. By focusing on real-world scenarios, you train your brain to respond instead of analyze. You stop translating, you start reacting, and reaction is fluency. Remember this: English is not learned in comfort, it is learned in use. English is not activated by knowledge, it is activated by necessity, and real-world scenarios create that necessity safely, repeatedly, and effectively. In the next segment, we will enter the first real-world scenario, speaking to a stranger. One of the most common, most feared, and most important English situations. And once you master that, everything else becomes easier. Scenario 1: speaking to a stranger. Simple, clear, human. For most English learners, this is the hardest situation of all. Not speaking at work, not giving opinions, not even making mistakes. The hardest situation is speaking to a stranger. Because when the person is unknown, fear becomes louder. You don't know how they will react. You don't know how fast they will speak. You don't know if they will judge you. So your brain sends one message: stay quiet, stay safe. This is why many learners avoid strangers, even when they know exactly what they want to say. But here is the truth. Speaking to a stranger does not require advanced English. It requires human English. Strangers do not expect perfection. They expect clarity. They don't care about your grammar. They care about understanding you. This is where many learners overthink. They believe, I need a perfect opening sentence. I need correct grammar. I need confidence first. No, you only need intent. Real world conversations with strangers are short. They are practical. They are simple. Most begin with a greeting, a reason, a response, nothing more. But learners complicate it because fear adds noise. Let's break this down clearly. When you speak to a stranger in real life, you're usually doing one of three things: starting contact, asking something, responding to something. That's it. Not debating, not presenting, not performing, just connecting briefly. The biggest mistake learners make is trying to sound impressive. Impressive language increases pressure. Simple language reduces pressure. Native speakers use simple English with strangers. They don't say, "Excuse me, I would like to inquire regarding." They say, "Excuse me, can I ask you something?" Short, human, safe. Real world English is built on soft starts. Soft starts lower emotional risk. For example, "Excuse me, sorry to bother you. Hi, quick question." These phrases are powerful because they buy time. They signal politeness. They signal humility. They signal safety. And safety makes people listen. Learners often freeze because they think, what if I don't know what to say next? But strangers don't expect long conversations. They expect one exchange, one question, one answer, one response. That's all. And if the conversation continues, it grows naturally. Confidence does not come from long conversations. It comes from successful short ones. Here is something important to understand. You do not need to control the conversation. You only need to enter it. Many learners feel pressure to carry the conversation. That is not your job. Conversations are shared. You speak, they respond, you react. Reaction is easier than creation. That's why listening is a strength, not a weakness. When you speak to a stranger, listening gives you direction. You don't need to plan the entire conversation. You only need to respond to what is said. This removes mental overload. Another reason learners freeze with strangers is accent fear. They worry, what if they don't understand my accent? Here is the reality. Strangers care more about clarity than accent. Slow, clear, simple. Speed causes misunderstanding, not accent. Native speakers misunderstand each other all the time. Misunderstanding is normal. The difference is how you respond. Confident speakers don't panic when misunderstood. They adjust, they repeat, they simplify, they rephrase. That is real world skill. And you can do that too. You don't need perfect English to fix confusion. You only need calm English. Here is a powerful mindset shift. You are not asking permission to speak. You're offering communication. Speaking to a stranger is not interrupting, it is interacting. Once you understand this, fear reduces. Another common fear is, what if the conversation ends awkwardly? Here is the truth. Most conversations with strangers end quickly, and that's normal. Awkward endings are not failures, they are completions. Real life is not scripted. Silence does not mean disaster, it means the interaction is over. And that's okay. You don't need a perfect ending, you only need to exit politely. Simple endings work. Thank you. Got it, thanks. Appreciate it. Short, clean, confident. Learners often replay conversations in their head afterward. They analyze mistakes, they judge themselves. This trains fear, instead, train neutrality. Say to yourself, I spoke. That's enough. Progress is measured in attempts, not outcomes. The brain learns from attempts. The more you attempt, the more normal it feels. And normal removes fear. Here is why practicing stranger conversations is so powerful. Strangers have no memory of you, no history, no expectations, no emotional baggage. This makes them the safest practice partners. If something goes wrong, nothing is lost. And if something goes right, confidence grows. This is why confident English speakers are not fearless people. They are experienced people. They have spoken to many strangers. They have survived many small conversations. They have learned that nothing terrible happens, and that lesson changes everything. Speaking to a stranger is not about bravery, it is about repetition. Small repetitions, low stakes repetitions. And once your brain understands that strangers are safe, English stops feeling dangerous. This scenario is the foundation. If you can speak to a stranger, you can ask for help, start conversations, enter social spaces, build real life confidence. That's why this scenario comes first. In the next segment, we move to scenario 2, asking for help or information, where English becomes a tool for solving problems, not proving ability. And that shift makes speaking even easier. Scenario 2, asking for help or information, clear, calm, effective. There is one moment when English suddenly becomes very real, not in classrooms, not in practice sessions, but when you need something, you're lost, you are confused, you don't understand what was said, you don't know what to do next. In that moment, English is no longer a subject, it becomes a lifeline. And yet, this is exactly the moment many English learners avoid speaking. They hesitate, they feel embarrassed, they worry about being a burden, so they struggle silently. This silence is not caused by lack of English. It is caused by the belief that asking for help is weakness. But in real life, asking for help is strength. And in English speaking environments, it is completely normal. Native speakers ask for help constantly. They ask, "Can you repeat that? What does that mean? Sorry, I didn't catch that." No one thinks they're stupid. No one judges them. They are simply solving a problem. English learners often believe they must understand everything. This belief creates pressure, but real communication allows confusion. Confusion is part of conversation. Understanding grows through clarification, not silence. Here is the key idea. Asking for help does not expose your weakness. It shows your intention to understand, and intention matters more than accuracy. When you ask for help calmly, people respond kindly, not because your English is perfect, but because your request is human. Real world English is built on repair skills. Repair means fixing misunderstanding while the conversation continues. This is more important than perfect grammar. Most communication problems are solved with very simple language, short phrases, clear tone, relaxed pace. The biggest mistake learners make in this scenario is over-explaining. They feel the need to justify their English. They say things like, "My English is not good, sorry. I'm not very good at English." This immediately lowers confidence. And it is unnecessary. You don't need to apologize for learning. You don't need permission to ask. You only need to state your need. Strong speakers do not apologize for confusion, they clarify, and you can do the same. Asking for help usually follows 3 steps: signal, request, response. The signal prepares the listener. The request states the problem. The response moves the conversation forward. For example, "Sorry, can you help me? I didn't understand that part. Could you say it again?" Simple, direct, effective. These phrases are powerful because they reduce tension. They tell the listener, "I'm engaged. I care. I want to understand." That creates cooperation. Another common fear is, what if they speak too fast? This happens often. Fast speech is not a sign of difficulty, it is a sign of normal conversation. The solution is not to panic, the solution is to slow the conversation. And slowing a conversation does not require advanced English. It requires confidence. You can slow any conversation by asking calmly, "Could you speak a little slower? Can you say that again, please?" Native speakers use these phrases all the time. They are normal. What makes learners freeze is not speed. It is fear of interruption. They worry, "I don't want to interrupt. I don't want to be rude." But clarification is not interruption. It is cooperation. In English-speaking cultures, asking for clarification is expected. Silence is more confusing than questions. Another important skill in this scenario is confirming understanding. Instead of guessing, confident speakers confirm. They say, "So you mean, just to be sure, let me check if I understand." This protects both sides. Misunderstandings grow when people pretend to understand. Real-world English values clarity over pride, and pride often blocks learning. Here is another mindset shift. You're not slowing the conversation, you're improving it. Clear communication saves time. Confusion wastes time. Asking for help early prevents bigger problems later. This is true in daily life, work environments, travel, social situations. The ability to ask for help is a core fluency skill. Many learners focus only on speaking, but asking for help is also speaking, and it is often the most useful type of speaking. When English becomes a tool, asking for help feels natural. When English is a goal, asking for help feels like failure. This is why mindset matters. Another fear learners have is, what if I don't understand even after asking? That is okay. You can ask again. You are allowed to ask twice. You are allowed to ask 3 times. Persistence is not weakness, it is clarity. You don't lose respect by asking again. You lose clarity by pretending. Real world English is flexible. You can ask again, rephrase, ask for an example. These are skills, not flaws. And every time you use them, confidence grows because you are no longer helpless. You are active in the conversation. Asking for help puts you in control. Silence removes control. This scenario is powerful because it turns fear into function. You stop worrying about sounding good. You focus on understanding. And understanding is the foundation of communication. Once you master this scenario, English stops feeling overwhelming. You realize, I don't need to understand everything. I just need to know how to ask. And that knowledge is freeing. In the next segment, we move into scenario 3. Speaking at work or in professional situations where many learners feel the most pressure but also gain the most confidence. Scenario 3. Speaking at work or in professional situations. Calm, clear, credible. For many English learners, no situation feels heavier than work. At work, English does not just feel like a language, it feels like reputation, your intelligence, your professionalism, your value. All seem to be attached to how well you speak, so pressure increases. And when pressure increases, English disappears. People who speak comfortably in daily life suddenly freeze in meetings. People who can explain ideas casually struggle to speak professionally. This does not happen because work English is harder. It happens because the emotional stakes are higher. When English becomes a measure of worth, fear grows. But here is the truth most learners never hear. Professional English is simpler than social English. It is more structured, more predictable, more repetitive. Work conversations follow patterns, and patterns reduce fear. Most professional communication is not creative. It is functional. You're usually doing one of 5 things: asking a question, giving an update, explaining a problem, responding to feedback, saying you need time or clarification. That's it. You're not performing. You're not debating philosophy. You're not entertaining. You're moving work forward. When learners understand this, pressure drops. Professional English values clarity over beauty. A clear, simple sentence is more respected than a complex, confusing one. Native speakers at work rarely speak in long sentences. They use short, direct language. Because work is about efficiency, not style. Many learners stay silent in meetings because they believe, I don't have something important enough to say. But importance is not measured by length or vocabulary. It is measured by relevance. If your information helps the task, it matters. And if you understand the task, you are already qualified to speak. Another common fear is making mistakes in front of colleagues. But here is the reality. Everyone makes mistakes at work, native speakers included. Mispronunciation, wrong words, unclear explanations. These happen daily. What matters is not the mistake. What matters is recovery. Professional confidence comes from how you continue, not from perfection. This is why learning repair language is more valuable than advanced grammar. Simple phrases like, let me rephrase that. Sorry, I meant, what I'm trying to say is, these phrases show clarity and control. They do not reduce professionalism, they increase it. Silence, on the other hand, can be misunderstood. People may assume you are unsure or disengaged or lacking confidence. Speaking, even briefly, keeps you visible. Visibility matters at work, and visibility does not require fluency. It requires participation. Another fear learners have is, what if I don't know the answer? Here is something important. You do not lose credibility by saying you don't know. You lose credibility by pretending. Professional English allows honesty. You can say, I'm not sure yet. I need to check. I'll get back to you. These are powerful sentences. They show responsibility, not weakness. Many learners feel pressure to speak fast. But speed is not professionalism. Clarity is. Slow, calm. English sounds confident. Fast, nervous English sounds uncertain. You are allowed to pause. You are allowed to think. Pauses do not mean incompetence, they mean intention. This is especially important in meetings. You do not need to speak often. You need to speak when it matters. One clear sentence is better than 5 unclear ones. Professional English is about control, not volume. Another challenge at work is understanding different accents. English at work is global. You will hear different pronunciations, different rhythms, different vocabulary. This is normal. Misunderstanding does not mean your English is weak. It means English is diverse. The solution is the same as before. Ask for clarification calmly. Professional environments respect clarity. You can say, can you repeat that part? Just to confirm. These are not signs of weakness. They are signs of responsibility. When English becomes a tool at work, your mindset changes. You stop asking, how do I sound like? You start asking, did I communicate my point? That shift removes fear, because communication, not perfection, is the goal. Confidence at work grows slowly. It grows through small moments, asking one question, giving one update, clarifying one misunderstanding. Each moment builds evidence, and evidence builds confidence. Many learners believe they need to speak like a leader to be respected, but leaders speak simply. They speak clearly. They speak calmly. They speak with purpose. You do not need advanced English to sound professional. You need intentional English. Work English is not about expressing personality. It is about exchanging information. And that makes it easier, not harder. Once you understand this, work stops being scary. It becomes structured, predictable, manageable. In the next segment, we move to scenario 4, expressing opinions and feelings, where English becomes personal, emotional, and powerful. Scenario 4, expressing opinions and feelings. Honest, simple, confident. For many English learners, this scenario feels more difficult than work. Asking questions feels safe. Giving information feels controlled. But expressing opinions and feelings feels personal. Because now is not just English, it's you, your thoughts, your beliefs, your emotions, and that vulnerability creates fear. Many learners stay silent, not because they don't have opinions, but because they are afraid of how those opinions will sound in English. They think, what if I say it wrong? What if people misunderstand me? What if I sound rude, weak, or stupid? So they agree silently. They nod, they smile, they hide their voice. But here is the truth. Expressing opinions in English does not require strong English. It requires clear intention. Opinions do not need complexity. They need honesty. Native speakers rarely express opinions in perfect sentences. They use simple structures. I feel like, in my opinion, I'm not sure, but these phrases are powerful because they protect you. They soften your words. They show openness. They remove pressure. Many learners believe opinions must be strong to be respected. That is not true. In English, soft opinions are normal. You do not need to sound absolute. You do not need to sound aggressive. You do not need to sound certain. Uncertainty is allowed. In fact, uncertainty sounds polite. Saying, I think this might be better, is often more accepted than this is better. Confidence is not about force, it is about clarity. Another fear learners have is disagreement. They worry. If I disagree, people will be upset. If I disagree, I will sound rude. But disagreement is not conflict. It is conversation. English-speaking cultures expect different opinions. What matters is how you disagree. Simple language helps here. You don't need complex arguments. You need respectful signals. Phrases like, I see your point, but I understand, however. I'm not sure I agree. These phrases show respect before difference, and respect keeps conversations safe. Many learners avoid sharing feelings because emotions feel difficult to express in another language. They worry. I won't find the right word. My feeling will sound wrong. But emotions do not require perfect vocabulary. They require recognition. You don't need poetic English to express feelings. Simple words work. I feel stressed. I'm confused. I'm happy about this. I'm worried. Clear feelings build connection. People do not judge your grammar when you express feelings. They listen because emotions are human. Another reason learners stay silent is fear of misunderstanding. They think, what if people misunderstand my opinion? Misunderstanding is normal. It happens in native language too. The key is clarification, not silence. You can always say, that's not exactly what I meant. Let me explain. Again, these phrases give you control. Silence removes control. Expressing opinions is not about being right, it is about being present. When you share your opinion, even simply, you participate. And participation builds confidence. Many learners believe they need advanced vocabulary to express deep thoughts. But depth does not come from vocabulary. It comes from clarity. A simple idea clearly expressed is more powerful than a complex idea poorly expressed. Native speakers respect clarity. They don't expect perfection from non-native speakers. They expect honesty. Here is a key mindset shift. Your opinion has value even if your English is simple. Your ideas do not become less important because of grammar. Your voice matters before your language improves. Another challenge in this scenario is emotional speed. Feelings appear quickly. You don't have time to prepare sentences. That's okay. Real English is often unfinished. You're allowed to pause. You're allowed to search for words. You're allowed to speak slowly. Pauses do not reduce confidence. Rushing does. Speaking slowly gives your brain time. Time reduces mistakes. Time reduces fear. Many learners think confidence means speaking fast. But confidence means speaking calmly. Calm English sounds thoughtful. Thoughtful English sounds confident. Expressing opinions also builds identity in English. Until now, English may have felt like a tool for survival. But in this scenario, English becomes a tool for self-expression, and that is powerful. This is where English starts to feel like your language, not just a borrowed one. You stop repeating, you start creating, and creation builds ownership. Ownership builds confidence. You don't need to share strong opinions all the time. You can start small. Simple opinions matter. I like this. I don't prefer that. I think this works. Small expressions train your brain to speak without fear. And once fear decreases, complexity grows naturally. Expressing feelings also improves relationships. When you share how you feel, people understand you better, and understanding reduces pressure. You don't need to be perfect to be understood. You need to be honest. English becomes easier when it carries meaning. Meaning gives words energy. Without meaning, English feels heavy. With meaning, English flows. This scenario is important because it moves you from functional English to personal English, from survival to connection, and connection is where fluency deepens. In the next and final segment, we will move to scenario 5, handling mistakes and awkward moments. The skill that protects you in every conversation and makes English feel safe anywhere. Scenario 5, handling mistakes and awkward moments. Recover, continue, stay calm. This scenario is the most important one of all, because no matter how good your English becomes, no matter how much you practice, no matter how confident you feel, mistakes and awkward moments will still happen. They happen to beginners. They happen to fluent speakers. They happen to native speakers. The difference is not who makes mistakes. The difference is who knows how to recover. Most English learners don't fear speaking. They fear what happens after a mistake. The silence, the confusion, the feeling of being exposed. So they try to avoid mistakes completely. But avoiding mistakes creates a bigger problem. It creates fear. And fear is what really stops fluency. Here is the truth you must understand. Fluency is not the absence of mistakes. Fluency is the ability to continue after a mistake. Real-world English is not clean. Conversations are messy. People interrupt each other. People misunderstand. People forget words. People correct themselves mid-sentence. This is normal. But learners often believe one mistake ruins the conversation. So they freeze, they stop talking, they apologize too much, they lose confidence. This reaction, not the mistake itself, is what makes the moment awkward. Awkwardness comes from stopping, not from errors. Native speakers make mistakes all the time, but they don't stop. They say, sorry, what I'm trying to say is, and they continue. They don't panic. They don't judge themselves. They treat mistakes as part of speaking. This is the mindset you must build. When you make a mistake, your goal is not to fix the sentence perfectly. Your goal is to keep the conversation alive. Because communication is more important than correctness. Here is a powerful shift. Mistakes only become embarrassing when you treat them as embarrassing. If you stay calm, others stay calm. People follow your emotional signal. If you panic, they feel awkward. If you stay relaxed, they stay relaxed. Confidence is not about being right. It is about being unshaken. One common awkward moment is forgetting a word. Your mind goes blank. You know the idea, but the word is gone. This happens to everyone. The mistake learners make is stopping completely. They freeze and search silently. Silence increases pressure. Pressure blocks memory. Instead, confident speakers keep talking. They describe the word. They use simpler language. They explain differently. They move around the missing word. This keeps flow. Flow protects confidence. Another common awkward moment is saying something wrong and realizing it. Learners often panic and restart the entire sentence. This breaks rhythm. A better response is to adjust smoothly. You don't need to correct perfectly. You can say, I mean, sorry, let me say that again. These phrases are not signs of weakness. They are signs of control. They show you are aware and engaged, and people respect that. Another fear is misunderstanding. You say something, the other person reacts strangely. You realize they understood something else. This happens often. The solution is not to retreat. The solution is clarification. Clarification saves conversations. You can say, no, I mean, let me explain it differently. This removes confusion. And confusion, not mistakes, is what creates awkwardness. Another awkward situation is when you don't understand what the other person said. Learners often pretend to understand to avoid embarrassment. This creates bigger problems later. Pretending increases anxiety. Asking for clarification reduces anxiety. Confident speakers stop the conversation when needed. They say, sorry, I didn't catch that. Can you say that again? They don't apologize for learning. They prioritize understanding, and understanding creates safety. Many learners also feel awkward when conversations end suddenly. Silence appears. No one knows what to say next. Learners think, I failed. I said something wrong. But most conversations end naturally. Short conversations are normal. Silence does not mean failure. It means completion. You don't need a perfect ending. You only need a polite exit. Simple exits work. Thanks. All right. Nice talking to you. Clean endings remove tension. Another important skill is self-forgiveness. Many learners replay mistakes in their mind for hours. They judge themselves harshly. This trains fear. Instead, train neutrality. After a mistake, say, that's normal. I'm learning. I spoke. Speaking matters more than perfection. Your brain learns from action, not from punishment. Punishment creates avoidance. Learning requires safety. This is why treating English as a tool is so powerful. Tools are allowed to fail. You don't get angry at a tool. You adjust and continue. Your English does not need to be perfect to work. It only needs to function. And function improves with use. Handling mistakes well creates a powerful effect. You stop fearing conversations because you know, even if something goes wrong, I can handle it. That belief changes everything. It removes pressure, it increases willingness, it accelerates fluency. Fluency grows fastest when fear is low, and fear disappears when you trust your ability to recover. This is the final real world skill, because if you can recover from mistakes, you can speak anywhere. You don't need to prepare. You don't need perfect grammar. You don't need perfect vocabulary. You need resilience, the ability to continue. And that ability turns English into a safe tool. In the final segment, we will bring all 5 scenarios together and show you how to practice them daily without apps, without pressure, and without fear. How to practice these 5 scenarios daily. No apps, no pressure, real progress. By now, something important should be clear. English does not improve because you know more. English improves because you use it more, and not random use, targeted use. Use that prepares you for real life. That is why these 5 real world scenarios matter. They are not theory. They are not classroom exercises. They are moments that actually happen. And the final question is simple. How do you practice these 5 scenarios daily? Without apps, without stress, without feeling fake? The answer is not more study. The answer is structured daily use. Real fluency grows from small, repeatable actions that feel natural, not forced. So let's bring everything together. First, understand this principle. Your brain learns language through repetition in context, not memorization. Context gives meaning. Meaning creates memory. That's why practicing scenarios works so well. You're training your brain to react, not to translate. Here is the daily system. Simple, flexible, realistic. You don't need special time. You don't need motivation. You don't need confidence. You only need 5 short moments in your day. Step 1. Rotate the scenarios. You don't practice all 5 scenarios every day. That creates pressure. Instead, rotate them. 1 scenario per day. For example, Monday, speaking to a stranger. Tuesday, asking for help. Wednesday, work English. Thursday, opinions and feelings. Friday, handling mistakes. Weekend, free review. This keeps practice light. No burnout, no boredom. Your brain stays fresh. Step 2, practice out loud. This is non-negotiable. Thinking in English helps, but speaking out loud changes everything. Your mouth must learn. Your voice must learn. Your ears must learn. Silent English stays theoretical. Spoken English becomes real. You don't need an audience. In fact, solo practice is powerful because there is no judgment. You can practice while walking, while cooking, while driving, before sleeping. You are not performing. You are training reaction. Step 3. Use short role play, not long scripts. Long scripts feel artificial. Real conversations are short. So practice short. 1 question, 1 response, 1 continuation. For example, in the stranger scenario, you practice 1 opening line, 1 follow-up, 1 exit. That's enough. Fluency grows from starting, not finishing perfectly. Short practice builds confidence faster than long practice. Step 4. Accept imperfect English on purpose. This step is critical. You must allow mistakes intentionally. Why? Because real life does not wait for perfect sentences. If you only practice perfect English, your brain panics in real situations. So when practicing, don't stop for grammar, don't restart sentences, don't correct everything. Continue. Flow matters more than correctness. Fluency is movement, not accuracy. Step 5. simulate pressure. Gently, real conversations have pressure, but you don't need stress to train pressure. You only need time limits. For example, answer within 3 seconds, respond without thinking too much. This trains instinct. Instinct is fluency. Your brain learns, I don't need perfect words to speak. That belief changes everything. Step 6. Use your real life as practice. This is where English becomes powerful. Don't separate practice from life. Use English to explain your plans, talk about your day, react to news, express feelings. Even one sentence counts. Practice does not need to look like practice. When English enters daily thinking, it becomes normal, and normal removes fear. Step 7. Measure progress correctly. Most learners measure progress the wrong way. They ask, am I fluent yet? That question kills motivation. Instead, ask, do I speak faster than before? Do I freeze less than before? Do I recover better than before? These are real signs of progress. Fluency grows quietly. You often don't notice it day to day, but one day you realize, I didn't panic. I didn't translate. I just spoke. That moment means the system worked. Step 8. Stop waiting for confidence. Confidence is not the starting point. It is the result. You don't practice because you feel confident. You practice until confidence appears. And it always appears if practice is real. Step 9. Combine all 5 scenarios. Eventually, something powerful happens. The scenarios begin to mix. You speak to a stranger, you ask for help, you express an opinion, you make a mistake, you recover, all in one conversation. That's not theory, that's real English. And once your brain knows it can handle these moments, English stops feeling dangerous. It becomes usable. That is fluency. Final truth. English is not mastered in silence. It is mastered in motion. You don't need perfect grammar. You need permission to speak. You don't need confidence. You need repetition. You don't need native level English. You need functional courage. If you can speak English in these 5 real world scenarios, you can speak English anywhere. Not because you are perfect, but because you are prepared. And preparation creates freedom. That is the real goal. Not fluency as a label, but fluency as freedom to speak.